Sup nerds! Another Thursday, another free game from Epic Games. This time from February 27th until March 6th, we can claim Mages of Mystralia. Also, just as a reminder, you can still claim Knights of the Old Republic 1 and Knights of the Old Republic 2 on the mobile version of Epic Games, claimable until the 20th of March. But anyway, Mages of Mystralia. Mages of Mystralia is an action-adventure game that came out back in 2021. In it, you play as a young mage who apparently accidentally set a village afire. Scared of the villagers and of your uncontrollable powers, you run into the woods where you meet the Mentor. Yes, that's how he introduces himself, the Mentor. I don't really know whose mentor he is, but he sure doesn't seem like ours because he doesn't really teach you anything and just kinda tells you to go figure it out. And the story, at least up until where I played, didn't seem that great. It is honestly the usual: there's a corruption in the forest, go deal with that, what caused it, oh no, there's a solar eclipse, and who is this guy? He definitely doesn't dress up like the villain, does he? All the while you talk to your only friend, a talking book who may or may not be evil. So story is not this game's forte, but gameplay it is. You learn different spells that does different things to solve simple puzzles at first, but as you keep going you get runestones, which are like mods kinda for your spells. It makes the spells behave differently. You can string them together to make your spells do very specific things, and hence you end up doing more complex puzzles as you go on. Very cool, very fantastic, but there's also a plethora of enemies that get in your way. Not to mention boss fights, which I only did 3 of so far, but were all pretty fun and very different from one another. There's even like 10 different wands that you can get, each of which will have different effects, so not only do they change the way you play, but it also scratches that collector's itch for me going after all of them. Add to all that, exploration of this magical and charming environment, it's awesome. All the while listening to this soundtrack. I gotta say, not bad at all. This whole experience seems to me, personally, like a mixture between the older Legend of Zelda games with a strong vibe of the old Harry Potter games, which honestly I was a big fan of both. But this, despite being a 2021 game that I have never played before today, it somehow still feels very nostalgic. Now, most of what I said were positive so far, so let's go into some negatives, and to be fair, the game does tell you in the beginning that a gamepad is recommended to play. That said, on the desktop I played keyboard and mouse because that's what I'm more used to, and honestly it's not that bad, but there's this one thing where when you cast a spell, it will always cast on the direction that your mouse cursor is at, but your character won't be looking towards the cursor until you are casting. What I mean is, other games like this, when you move the mouse, your character turns to look at where your mouse cursor is. This helps the player know where the spell will go towards. Here though, your character continues to look towards where that character is moving instead of where your mouse cursor is at. So impulsively, I keep thinking that the spell will shoot out toward where the character is facing, and not towards the mouse cursor, because the character is not looking at the mouse cursor. But like I said, they did tell me gamepad is recommended, so that's on me, I guess. Another thing that I found myself missing when playing this was a roll button. Feeling like this was a Zelda-esque game, I automatically expected there to be a roll button, but alas, there were none. And the character does jog decently fast, but still I found myself constantly wanting to roll out of harm's way after casting a spell. And I do honestly think that having this would elevate the action side of the action-adventure. But perhaps this choice was done on purpose to force you to use defend more often, focus more on the magic. And one last nitpick of mine was, of course, faces. I know the entire game does look simpler and more polygonal. I do realize that this is a choice in artistic design. I know this. That said, the faces are honestly off-putting to me. I can't really put my finger on it, but it feels unfinished maybe. They just look a little off, even in parts where your character is reacting to something. It just doesn't look like that's what they're reacting to. And honestly, it's a little baffling because the rest of the world looks charming and cozy, not to mention there's a lot of attention to detail in here. One example being how your wand has the light and trail of the spell that you last used. And it's such a small thing, but it just makes it look great. So yeah, most of the negatives are my nitpicks and not really something inherently wrong with the game. But again, I haven't actually finished the game. This is a first impression, so I only played about an hour and a half maybe. But the beginning impression is definitely good. But anyway, let's see how it does on the Rog Ally. So here we are in Rog Ally. I do assume it will be better on a gamepad, so of course on a handheld, that's perfect. Apparently this doesn't save, doesn't have cloud saving, because it didn't pick up my save. So that's a little disappointing, but you know, it is what it is. So of course, again, it sounds amazing. I do like the soundtrack here. We'll skip everything because we did see this on the other. So as per usual, we are on silent mode, and you know, obviously this isn't a very demanding game, so it is playing fine. 46 frames per second, sometimes it went to 75 even. The cutscenes are pretty cool too. By the way, those bird noises that you hear, it's not from the game, it's actually from out my window. Yeah, 55 frames per second, very smooth. Yeah, so something I noticed already, without the mouse, the spells are done directly where she's looking at. And I think that's in a way better, because with the mouse, like, she won't look at where your mouse is at, but when you do use the spell, it does, like, she turns around and use it. So oftentimes, that's not very intuitive. Oftentimes, you do expect her to attack right in front of her, and she turns around and gives her back to the enemy on the mouse and keyboard. So I guess it's things like that that makes this slightly better on the gamepad. Yeah, so she will always do the skill where she's looking towards on the gamepad. So, you know, that's more intuitive and simpler, obviously. Yeah, I don't know, I guess it's easier on the gamepad. I was getting hit left and right with the keyboard, but because I didn't realize it was not on the direction she was looking at, but where the mouse was aiming at. Yeah, like that. I can use the shield a lot more easily on the gamepad, whereas with the mouse and keyboard, it was a little finicky to get around it. Yeah, so, you know, obviously, again, it's not a very demanding game, so it obviously will run on a handheld PC fantastically well. No problem there. Even on silent mode, fantastic. No lag, no frame rate drop, nothing. And this is one of the games that I think it does appeal on a handheld, just because it is very nostalgic in gameplay wise. Of course, it does play a lot better on the gamepad as well. Obviously, you can always hook up a gamepad to your computer if you really wanted to. And maybe this is a personal thing, but honestly, on desktop, I do prefer to play bigger, heavier games, more complex games, whereas on handhelds, I do prefer to play lighter games. Though on the Rog Ally, I have enjoyed heavier games here as well. But this game in particular, I think it's a very good middle point. Obviously, it's not a demanding game, but you can see that they put a lot of care into the game. Not only so, but the gameplay is very nostalgic of the older games. Like I said, this does feel like a mixture of the old Legend of Zelda and the vibes of Harry Potter games mixed into it, using spells to solve different puzzles and stuff, exploring this magical land. It just feels awesome. And of course on a handheld it feels a lot of fun, just like when we used to play Legend of Zelda games on the Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance and whatnot. That is the vibes and feels that it gives me. And like I said, the game is also very charming. Even if I don't like the character design that much, it does most of the time zoom out like this, so you play zoomed out. You mostly see the environment, which again I do think is very nice and charming. The soundtrack very great. So all in all, I do think this is a good fun game to have in the library, and it is something I would consider playing again on my downtime if I didn't have anything else specific in mind. So yeah, what did you think? Are you going to give this a try? Or have you already tried it back when they gave this away the first time? Let me know in the comments down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video. Consider helping the channel out by clicking join down below to become a member. Subscribe to see more videos like this, and of course, always nerd on.